Bryan, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, JP, good to see you. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, great to reconnect with you. I've heard that you are doing some great things. I can't wait for you to share the story. Just to recap for the listeners, we got to know each other out in the entrepreneur community, and at my time as the chief lending officer at the credit union I worked for, and we did some things together. And I can remember, I just want to remind you, you did an absolutely amazing pitch that day for that group, and I'm sure you've honed it even more. So let's get into it. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your background and sort of how we came to the point of creating FunLPro?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in East Tennessee. A local guy. I grew up actually in Maryville, just down the road. I was the son of an entrepreneur. My dad actually owned a lot of different businesses. We had car lots, we had gas stations, we had restaurants, etc. So I was always doing something. From the time I was old enough to speak, essentially, I was either working at the cash register or stocking coolers or sweeping up cigarette butts or doing something. So that gives you that kind of I think gives you a little bit of future projection into an entrepreneurial type of career, but the way we really came to get into FunLPro was actually based off of an idea for an invention that my dad had that related specifically to his car hauler business. We had a trucking company that was a subsidiary of the car lots that we owned that actually brought vehicles back and forth from the auctions for not only our car lots but for some of the others in the local community. The first truck I think we bought was an '86 Freightliner with like 1 million miles on it. So it had, we had 6 different funnels in the truck. We were constantly adding fluids on every trip. It was just, one of those deals where we were digging product out, digging out the funnel, cleaning it, even with the funnel in hand, especially on the older trucks and semi-trucks in general. It's very difficult access points to get any of the fluid product in. So long story short, it took, sometimes in excess of 5 minutes to do something that we felt like should have took 30 seconds and been a relatively simple process. And to my dad's credit, he started playing around with some ideas, and we came up with an initial CAD design for FunLPro. We started reaching out, as early as 2012 out to some injection molders on the lower end of the cost scale in China. We filed a provisional patent in 2012, the non-provisional in 2013. Around that point in time, we started, doing what we knew to do with our limited understanding of the industry and business acumen to start testing out the product. In the summer of 2014, I was kind of digging around through the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center and some other, people that I could drum up.
Right.
And actually introduced to Glenn Swift, who kind of chartered the entrepreneurship program in graduate school at the University of Tennessee. So I was actually fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go back and work on my entrepreneur fellowship scholarship funded MBA and work full time on the business. And we came a very long way from fall of 2014 until the end of the program in December of 2015. So at that point, we actually got our initial product on shelves in the local community in early summer of last year. Have been growing that business, kind of perfecting our manufacturing and operations capabilities, and here we are today.
Right. A couple of questions out of that. Great wrap up. So, quickly, could you give everyone sort of a 60-second on what FunLPro does or is?
Yeah. So FunLPro is a patented closure system or capping technology that integrates onto fluid containers. It's actually got an extendable pouring spout built directly into the cap itself. So I've actually got a prop here.
Awesome.
So the cap itself actually has an extendable hose that backs down into the cap. So when you get your quarter motor oil or antifreeze or wiper fluid, etc., it integrates onto the fluid container just like a traditional cap. So it's essentially a high-end dispensing closure that plays in the market for closures or capping systems.
And the pain point for people that don't have what FunLPro offers is that you're constantly having to find the right size funnel to be able to reach tight spaces to add fluids. And if I'm remembering correctly, that was part of it. What's the real?
More specifically, in our instance with my dad in our trucking company, we were more industrial. We actually had funnels on us, and it was still a pain in the neck, for people in the retail or passenger car market, also in your recreational vehicles with your boats, your ATVs, your four-wheelers, different things that consume oil. You simply never have it with you.
Right.
It's not what you just typically think, when you're out at the lake on the marina trying to get stuff into the, your two-cycle or your two-stroke pontoon boat motor. It's rarely ever on you. It's inconvenient. It's not portable. It's messy. So the closure itself that we developed was designed by the consumer for the consumer to eliminate all of those pain points and actually be a cost-efficient, disposable closure that eliminated the need for you to have to lug a funnel around categorically.
Yeah, makes complete sense. I'm curious. Most entrepreneurs I talk to always seem to have that moment when they realize they have something per se. Do you remember that exact moment? I know you said you told a bit of the story. You were driving back with that older vehicle, but when did it strike you and your dad both that you were like, okay, this is a little bit more than just something that's solving our own issue?
Well, my dad is more the the entrepreneur in that sense. I would always kind of looked at myself more as the executioner. So I think as I started to become more sophisticated in my understanding of the intellectual property legal world, and that we had some really good IP around the system, is when it really began to shape for me that there was a clear path to success, whether it be licensing, whether it be outright sale of our IP assets, etc. But also we had a market test done by Casserole in the summer of 2013, where they brought product in and took it out to over 400 consumers in the New York metropolitan area, and went around. And the marketing guy came back with, I think it was like a 95% approval rating.
Wow.
Been marketing for 30 years and had never seen a product that they had introduced on their side that had the same type of feedback. At that point in time, we were very naive and thought that we had possibly hit a home run on our first at bat, and we, here we are, 4 years later, still driving it. But that's when we really learned the industry in general and what you have to do to position yourselves to fit, a product like this into a major, massive company.
Would you have pursued it, Bryan, if it weren't for the potential for IP?
So we are still in the process right now of essentially using our early momentum, our revenue, using our private label lines that we have for motor oil, for household cleaner products, to get out on the market in a specific way that we can collect and present really persuasive data to these major CPG firms, major oil and gas companies, or potentially interested venture capital companies that would kind of be a middleman between us and the major CPG guys. So really for us, it's about finding that sweet spot of, we don't necessarily need to be in only 50 stores, but we don't necessarily need to be in 50,000 stores. We just need to be able to get the product out there with specific marketing tests in mind, statistical analysis, data analytics that we can take back and present to folks that says, here's our product, here's what it can do for your brand, and we controlled for these certain variables and contingencies, and up to a 95 or 97% confidence interval, this is how it will perform.
Right. So, and obviously, the project with Casserole was a good starting step for that. How did that come to be? Did you hustle your way into that, or did you have contacts that got you to them? How'd you get to that?
I believe actually it was just somebody that my dad had tracked down in Casserole. Was a lower level individual.
Sure.
Kind of in the marketing department. And what we found out at the test was this was a really big learning experience and pivot for us.
Right.
We had always, at a very base level, at a very just gut feeling, what this product was is something that, how big would this be for a Casserole if only they had it, and Exxon and Shell and Chevron and the others didn't, or for Clorox and P&G didn't have it. So just a very unsophisticated gut level, and we really hadn't done a whole lot. We could see the potential from a packaging standpoint of, the opportunity to have some type of exclusivity with this additional closure technology. And what we found out after the Casserole test was we pushed it all the way through a very bureaucratic, slow-moving, risk-averse company, and got all the way to the end of the line. And then they found out that they don't actually bottle or do any of the downstream side of the business themselves. Yeah, that's actually delegated out to regional bottler blenders that actually negotiate for local or regional broker and brand rights. So distribution brand rights that they have in certain geographic areas. And at that point, you got a guy in the marketing department that might check how that's doing in the West Coast versus the Northeast, but they're essentially just licensing out their brand and really have no interest whatsoever in the downstream side of the business. So it took us a little while. We started to find some good stakeholders in that bottle or blender industry, folks that actually, they buy bottles, they buy caps, they fill it with oil, they slap a label on it, they put it on a pallet, they sell it to the distributors get it to the retailers. So we had to find folks that, one, saw the value in the cap in a very, very archaic, commoditized industry. Two, that we could convince that there was the ability to pass the cost along to the consumer because of the convenience, being that these folks had grown up in a commodity world where, by definition, if you increase price, you lose.
Right.
Third, they would be willing to at least wrap their head around the type of the different type of capping consequences, automation, different things that come into the operation side of the business. So we found a really good one. We've had a partner now for almost 2 years, Hicks Oils and Hicks Gas out of St. Louis.
Okay.
They do a lot of all of our bottler blender stuff for our rigid packaging. We have another partner that actually we've just brought on board that's actually doing the soft bags or the flexible bags for our Magna One. These spouted pouches, this is actually our 1 gallon bag. So these are actually in soft, flexible packaging.
Very cool.
So that's our contract filling on that side. And there's a company out of Athens, Tennessee called Midlab that we're looking at doing a similar type of project for, that will do a private label bottling, blending process for household cleaner and industrial compounds.
Okay, so you're moving out of the whole oil side too, moving into other liquids, I guess.
Yeah, we're looking at, we focus primarily from day one on automotive lubricants and household cleaner products. The reason that we started in automotive lubricants, and to kind of build on your prior question, is our beachhead, our target customer from day one. Well, I mean, since we went back and really put a lot of thought to this, are folks that are purchasing and consuming automotive lubricants on site. So folks at the convenience store, folks at the automotive parts supply store, or the truck stop that are purchasing and putting that oil in their car.
Right then and there.
Right then and there. And it's either you go in there and pay $6.99 for a funnel that you're going to use one time, or have to toss in the back of your trunk and get all over your golf clubs or whatever else, or they give you that paper funnel. So that's really where strategically we wanted to be on the automotive side. But the big market for us, to the tune of over 54 billion 1 gallon jugs sold each year, is the household cleaner and CPG side.
Makes sense. And so where does the Kenjo relationship that I guess when we worked together was brewing, where did that come into the process?
We actually, I've known Wes Carruthers, the gentleman that owns Kenjo Market, since I was a kid. They actually opened up a gas station right across the street from ours in Maryville, Tennessee.
Okay.
So Dad and Wes have known each other for a long time, before we even had a real prototype. He just said, yeah, if you guys can pull it off, we'll do it. It took us 2.5 years, but we got it done. We've had product in there since August of this year. We have actually moved through 15,000 quarts of oil since August 4th. We actually just pushed that into HT Hackney, who's the largest distributor in the country, right out of our backyard. So
absolutely.
We have a clear line of sight towards more and more stores, but we're selling a little over 2 quarts of oil per store per day, a little over 60 per month. Kenjo used to sell around 6 total per month. So we're getting about a 10x lift in their segment for their automotive lubricants.
Keeps them happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good project for them. We'll sit back and look at it on an annualized basis, but they did a little over 20,000 in revenue in that space last year, and we're figuring that they're going to do over 160 this year. So
really good
project from them, and it's one thing that Wes is just a really good businessman. He likes being involved in projects like this. So we're looking, how do we fit this convenience store priced oil that we have in the rigid packaging and possibly become a preferential or house brand for major distributors like HT Hackney, E.B. Brown, Core-Mark, McLean, et cetera, that give me access to over 100,000 convenience stores.
Yeah, when there's a really great point, I always like to pause for a moment, make sure that the listeners are going to catch all that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what it sounded like you said to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but A large portion of that was well, and a large portion of what you're saying, which is a great thing, is really a lot about relationships and knowing people. Could you talk about that for a minute? That importance in growing the business that way?
Well, I think I've always we've been so lucky and fortunate, especially in the East Tennessee community, with the people that have bent over backwards to help us out. And I've always focused primarily my job on building and leveraging those relationships into business opportunities. I think it's very easy to sit down, in a room full of MBAs and try to become overly strategic on where we're going, where we're headed. Why aren't we focusing on household cleaner product? Why are we focusing on automotive lubricants? But at some point you got to start getting quick wins. And this was something where we saw, like I said, a clear line of sight where we got this thing out into, all 48 of Kenjo's stores, get 2 or 3 turns through, get positive momentum, push that into their major distributor, and then be able to go back with the leverage of, a president of Downey Oil Company who has longer standing relationships and friendships with HT Hackney than we do with him, to say, hey, I'm involved on this project. Let's think about, at least getting this thing out there into a significant portion of your 20,000 stores. And that's done with one phone call. And that could have taken me 5 years to get to that point. I actually just now, as of March of 2017, got on the phone with the actual head of purchasing a new product for HT Hackney after trying to get to that point for over 4 years.
So all through relationships. It's just all through knowing the right people.
That was the long way around it. Now, I've never specifically, Wes has been talking with those people, the gentleman from Kenjo, for a long time. I mean, essentially, last time I was in his office, picked up the phone, said, hey, we're selling this stuff. We're tired of having a warehouse at our place. I need you to put, an order in for 16 pallets, and let's go. And he said, okay.
Fantastic. Yeah. I bet that just felt such a great pivotal moment for you all.
Yeah, like I said, that was a culmination of over almost 5 years worth of work. So, but once it's in there, at this point now, it's really kind of the same thing on the cleaner product side and our others. It's kind of beachhead into stores. You can see the line of sight towards greater distribution. At that point, you just have to not screw it up, and you have to execute and be able to handle it from a manufacturing standpoint. So we've been spending a lot of time. We've always kind of saw our core competency as intellectual property and engineering. We're trying to kind of expand that engineering into, not only our intellectual property, but also our engineering and new product development, as well as, our ability to sit down and communicate with our contract manufacturers to make it easily implemented into larger companies that are, tougher to, from a liability standpoint, from a, synergy standpoint, et cetera, that we can just easily fit this in with, our patents, our engineering, and our data shows that it's something that consumers want, and here it is. Take it, pull it in, and you can do a lot more with it with your resources than we can.
Fantastic. Sounds like you guys have done a lot of good stuff. If I could switch gears for a minute, could we talk just a little bit about how you're funding the whole project?
Yeah.
So I know you guys initially took on some small venture debt to fund some early purchase orders. The whole process there, I imagine, was just to not have to give up equity at that stage, so you could continue validating. And then didn't you recently raise a round, I guess, through investors?
Yes, we did. We just actually went as of January 11th of this year and took on some local private investors. We raised $550,000 worth of equity and another $150,000 intermediary line of credit with the ability to expand into more debt if we needed, but specifically to fund inventory. So
right.
We got some really good guys on the team, and they've been watching us work for a while. They liked what they were seeing, and the way they described it, they just wanted to get us some good hunting tools and resources in our hand to be able to go from where we were essentially in that classic entrepreneur like I said, my dad kind of being the entrepreneur, and the way that I was coached and taught, looking at this as a sprint, 3 to 5 year, as fast as we can, as quickly as we can grow type of business. There are different implications for how you fund that type of a project. So,
right.
I wanted to get out ahead of it as quickly as we could. It was difficult to give up the equity that late in the game, especially when we had already been selling and had the opportunity to grow. But to be able to do business in a significant portion of HT Hackney's geographic reach, or to have serious conversations like we are with major big box retailers, major automotive parts suppliers. We just felt that we really needed to get out ahead of our manufacturing capabilities and invest in our operations and in our sales and marketing. So right now, that's where our primary focus is on. We've brought on some really, really good people, some good partners that are, handling, our chief revenue officer role. We've got a really solid business intelligence and data analytics person on board. Got a really savvy CFO. We've got a lot of people that are involved in this now on a daily basis, and versus where it was just me, running in every different direction for 3 years.
Wearing all the hats.
It's nice to sit down and be able to delegate. So, that's really where we're trying to get to right now, is where we all have, different objectives and things that we're trying to get done every day. But right now, the cool thing with that Magnum 1 line, we're just running full speed at getting this thing launched on boat docks and marinas for our seasonal summer campaign for boats. So it's just a really kind of cool grassroots. Really Magnum 1 emphasized, kind of a Magnum 1 with FunLPro technology, but really kind of the process of building out a sales team, marketing a commoditized, not a strictly commoditized product with our flexible packaging and our patented technology, but a commodity product as in motor oil, and just being able to market it, get it out there, get our sales guys working, learn how to support that through marketing efforts and different types of campaigns that are cost effective. And, my partner, Sean Carnahan, that I brought on, has experience doing those types of projects. So we just, we kind of view this as we're going to be doing this, for the rest of our lives. And This is one of many. And if we can learn how to sell this, whether it's, motor oil or FunLPro caps or slinkies or data software or what have you, there's a process in place, and we have an understanding of who to put in specific roles and how to go out there and have fun with it and catch people's eye and, tell people that, you've got a really good product, that you thought of something that nobody else has thought of yet, and you're there to improve whatever task they are having to undertake.
I'm curious about the decision to add someone, and I'm going to use the word, I don't mean that it's a bad thing, but it's not something I typically see with a lot of startups, to go ahead and add someone from a data analytics side in-house. What drove that?
Well, we've been sitting down with some very large companies right now, and we just see over and over again how just apprehensive they are. Unless if you go to we won't use any names, but if you go to a major company and sit down and you show them, it's essentially who's covering whose butt. If they don't have data to where if it doesn't work, they sit there and they know that their head's on the chopping block. They want to be able to turn around and go, but look, the data said, yeah. So that we're just seeing it over and over and over again. And we've known that from day one, but, we decided similarly with the data analytics, just like we did in our manufacturing, that you just got to get out ahead of that. And when you have that conversation with Walmart, it's already got to be done. You can't wait.
So does that accelerate the sales process then, I guess, having someone like that on your side to be able to quantify what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that it accelerates what we're targeting bringing in revenue over the next 12 to 18 months. I would say that it actually possibly just makes it more strategic in how we collect and filter that data and get it to Amar and let him figure out exactly what story we can tell with that.
I gotcha.
With any type of statistical analysis, there's quantity or kind of the end factor, and then there's kind of the time that you do the study that evens things out. I'm no statistician whatsoever, but we're figuring that realistically, for one of those guys to sit down and be really comfortable, that we're going to have to do it at a very high level. And we've got the guys on the team that can sit down with PhDs from Procter and Gamble or Clorox and say, this is how we ran it, this is how we conducted it, this is how we accounted for this bias, yada yada. And we still figured that that's probably going to be, in excess of a year and a half to probably realistically 3 years worth of data before they say, all right.
It makes sense and it adds to the story. Yeah. Okay. Great decision then. Really great decision. Let's talk for a few minutes about your personal journey other than just the company. Just what's been sort of the hardest part of this whole process for you?
I think early on it was just juggling everything. It was kind of keeping it alive at any point. We got to the situation where I had a vision for how we get to where we were going, and I couldn't get there without outside funds.
Without help, yeah.
There was below probably a 5% chance that I could pull off what I wanted to pull off and not give up any equity, be able to land a major deal. But with the quality of the manufacturing that we had with our molds, that we, basically paid a fraction of what, you would pay for a quality tool. When we got started off with our first one, the quality control, the supply chain implications, it was one of those deals where we probably would have shot ourselves in the foot before we ever, even got running to first base. So we could have bankrolled it and bootstrapped it a little farther, but just to be able to basically through the business plan competitions that we won. I mean, we won 37 grand between that.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I did want to talk about it for a minute, so at least thanks for the mention. Yeah.
So the Boyd Fund, and then Knoxville Startup Day, and then also, when you were at the Federal Credit Union, we won Twitch Fund and had so we were able to essentially use that money to get, what I'll call a test mold. It wasn't a full production mold with.
Right, but you were able to clock off milestones with some funds along the way to sort of keep pushing that timeline.
That I looked at it was not so much that we could bankroll it. I'd never really felt that was realistic. I thought we had a better chance of somebody just coming and writing us a check and saying, "We get it. Here's a big check. Go away."
Yeah.
Rather than me being able to pull off, going from 50 stores to 5,000 stores without raising any additional money. But I looked at it more as setting up and building a foundation to tell the story to the investing community. And we got to work with, a lot of the guys here in the different, Angel Capital Group and those kind of guys.
Yeah, Eric Dobson. Yep.
Dobson was a big help. Jim Biggs and the guys over at the KEC just basically saying, what do we need to look like? I need money. Like everybody gets the idea, everybody gets the concept, everybody sees it. How do I package this and tell them what they want to hear, essentially, that they're going to get paid back in 3 years, a 10x return, and it's just going to be all great and hunky-dory and, all that stuff.
Not quite always that easy, is it? But you're doing great stuff. What's been the best part for you? I mean, what do you sort of think every day, wow, I'm just thrilled with this?
It's really cool to get to see other people, doing the things that I used to have to do, like just proactively. Like I get to come in, in the morning and, it's already done. They're already working on it. They're already looking at, different targets and goals and how we grow and get to where we want to go. So it's cool to just see it go from, an idea that we talked about for 3 years to a school project to we worked in the test market to where we have the resources and the people on the team to actually pull it off. And now it's same as anything else in life. I come from an athletic background as well. I mean, at some point you got to get the clutch hit in the right situation, and that's where we are right now. So whether it happens or not, who's to say? It's just a matter of us going out there and grinding on it and trying to be more clever than the folks that we're competing against. And I think we've put some cool people and some really talented people around us that are making, selling a cap with an extendable pouring spout built into it, a very strategic and high level activity.
Yeah, great stuff. So I think we'll wrap it up. So if people want to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing, where's the best place to do that? Website? Maybe something like that?
We're in the process right now of redesigning all of our websites. We still have the old FunLPro.com domain up. It's actually getting ready to go through a complete restructuring.
Okay, and that's FUNLPRO.com, right?
Absolutely. Also, we're launching the Magna One oil. That'll be Magna, MAGNA, #1 oil.com. That's going to be specifically built around our Magna One brand and our seasonal campaigns.
Okay.
So that's really going to be kind of our flagship site that we're spending the most amount of time on. FunLPro is going to go from trying to be everything at one time to a really industrial type of informational site, B2B type of site for the actual technology. But you can get me at my email, which is Bryan with the Y at FunLPro.com. And we've also obviously LinkedIn, etc. But we're basically going through an entire revamp of all of our web presence, and we didn't really get to discuss any of it. We have a full e-commerce and direct-to-consumer campaign that we're launching simultaneously with all of us. There'll be some really high-level things going on behind the scenes with our direct-to-consumer strategy as well that will complement and stack on top of our direct-to-retail our retail campaigns.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's have you on maybe in the future after some of that's started to come to fruition and kick in and talk about how that's working out for you. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, we're targeting. We're trying to get 25,000 quarts moved of the Magnum One, the TCW3 two-stroke, and the 25W44 stroke prior to Memorial Day weekend. We're looking to hopefully do over 50,000 of those this summer. So we really don't know what's going to happen on the e-commerce side. We know we've got some people that have done it and pulled off some really big sales before. We've got through our investors a state-of-the-art fulfillment center here in Knoxville that we're able to drop ship and do some really cool things as a value stack as well. But that stuff's just you never know. That's very hard to forecast, those direct-to-consumer sales. So
it is, but it's a great initiative. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on so much. Thank you so much for sharing the story. I know people are going to be able to get quite a few tidbits out of it, so I appreciate it.
well, good deal. Thanks for having me.
All right, Bryan. Have a good day.
You too.